Yeah, now it should work. Okay, yeah, thank
it's
you very much. Romain Perrot, aka Vomir, with us today. Thank you very much for joining. And I think you're one of the most prolific figures in harsh noise wall music and maybe even avant-garde music, who knows. And I wanted to ask you first, I mean, maybe you can explain to us where you're from and what your first encounters with music were when you were young or later.
Well, thank you so much for having me in the show. I'm living currently in Paris, in France. I was born in Paris 47 years ago. And I think my first relation to music was around 9 or 10, and just digging through the pile of records of my parents, just like anyone else, I guess. And it was very popular music they had. So it was a few Beatles and Pink Floyd records and a few 7 inches of the pop music from the 80s. And but somehow Pink Floyd stood up, and I was completely crazy for it. Pink Floyd from 9 years old until about 14 or 15 or something like that. I'm almost listening only to Pink Floyd, but a bit of Prince and casual music, you know. And then I switched a little bit more on hardcore, on Black Flag, and then on Sonic Youth, and then on the alternative. So of course I was 18 when it was the grunge music scene and everything. So, but all those music, I was very fond of music, but those kind of music didn't appeal to me as a music maker, you know. I didn't find any interest of copying those sounds, or it didn't give me the envy to really make music.
So you didn't learn any instrument from your parents or anything?
Okay. No, they tried a bit when I was very young, but it was very academic, and so absolutely not my interest at the time. And then I was a bit more listening towards a bit more of the avant-garde, because at the time, in the mid-90s, we were starting to find the John Zorn, you know, in casual music stores. Like there was in Paris big music stores, a big one called Virgin Megastore, you know, just like in UK or whatever. And it was at the time absolutely amazing for imports. You know, we get imports from Japan and everything. I didn't know at the time the underground scene in Paris. I didn't know any of the smallest independent record store specialized in hardcore or whatever. You know, it was really easy to find records about everywhere in every, you know, in every little quarter of the city there was record stores. But so I was getting into more in Naked City or Painkiller and import from the boredoms and everything. And then there was imports from KG, I know, the Japanese guitarist. And this record, which was an absolutely rock of noise, you know, only KG Aino and his feedback guitars and scream and overwhelming noise just fluting through me. And then it was a kind of a cathartic experience for me. And it was something that I remember very vividly, because I heard this music, this noise, and it completely rang the bell. You know, it was a click in my head. I said, oh, and not really in my head, but really in my stomach, in my guts. And it was like, oh my God, this is what I must do to be at ease with myself to be happy. So the next day, it was completely cliche, I know, but well, it's life, I can't lie. The next day, I was buying myself the cheapest guitar, the cheapest amplifier, the cheapest distortion pedal, and that was it. My noise life just started.
Nice. And okay, so like the KG Heino record, that was like the moment where you said, okay, now I have to do music and now I have to get myself out there.
Exactly. Okay. That was my epiphany. It was the exact moment that I switched and I understood that music was not really for me because it wasn't going to make me any good to me. But noise was something that I would be absolutely myself in doing so. Yes.
Yeah. Nice. And did you think about gigging or having concerts also from day one, or was it just something completely personal?
I was just in my room and and doing this and just doing it for myself. I was completely unaware of the underground music scene, really. And it's a bit afterwards that I discovered in Paris specialized radio shows, specialized shops and venues that was playing noise. Because before that, I was completely in my little life. I was completely unaware of anything. But then I discovered that it happened every week. Noise, and then of course I was a big and still are record buyer. So once I discovered KG, I went along. I discovered Masbo, I discovered Masona, I discovered all the Japanese scene, and buying records, and understood that there was just one record, but it was an open gate to another world, and so I was really, really, really interesting about that, because it was not industrial music. I was already listening to, of course, the industrial scene in Straubing Gristle and all the English, wave, and but it was not like this. Japanese noise was something so there was no message. It was just a full blast of noise. You didn't understand anything, and it was absolutely very, very powerful and relevant to me. But at the time, I didn't think at all about making records and doing shows. It happened step by step.
Yeah, that's, and especially the thing with the Japanese noise. It's, I mean, I always also have the feeling that, like, in Japan, it's a little bit different, because I come more from a jazz background. And if you compare like the music of the European free jazz scene to the ones in Japan, the Japanese one just stands out with, I don't know, a lot more, I would say, radicality, but in a way also a lot more noisiness and a lot more detachedness in some way. And
absolutely right. Yeah, you're maybe you're referring to Kaoru Abe.
Yes. Yes, actually, exactly. That's what I had in mind. Yeah, Kaoru Abe.
And Takayanagi, and
yes,
and even maybe the rock bands, the Alice Denudé, and of course, yes, there is a kind of radicality, absolutely amazing, because the life in Japan is way more difficult than in Europe. It's a lot of work, and the society is absolutely ruled by politeness and rules of civilization, and etc. And so being in the avant-garde and playing in small clubs with 10 people at a time, yes, this is radicality in Japan. And you knew that in Japan in the 70s that almost no one would listen to your music, There was no exchange of records. They were just playing in small jazz clubs in Shinjuku, you know, drinking at 2 a.m. and living something completely different from their, you know, salaryman life and working man life, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, this radicality is really, really relevant. Yes.
Yeah. And so I guess you were then in your 20s roundabout when you discovered or when you bought your first gear, and right in your roundabout 20s, mid.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Early 20s, yeah.
And how did like the gigging, concerting, or playing with other musicians, how did it start? I mean, did you tell anybody that you do noise music now, or did they approach you?
No, it was because I was doing my military service and listening to music. I was in the cinema of the army, you know, close to Paris. And I was listening to my music, noise music or avant-garde or alternative or whatever. And one guy came and said, "Hey, you know this radio show in Paris on a small radio station? They play exactly the music you like." And I say, "What? My music is on the radio in Paris? What? I don't know this." And so I went directly to the show, to the radio. You know, I was listening to the show one week, and the other week I was said, "Okay, let's go. I have to meet those guys. You know, they are just like me, and I didn't know anyone like me because I was just in my little room. You know, I didn't know anyone listening to avant-garde and noise. So I discovered those guys doing the radio show, which were absolutely great guys, and they're still my friends today. And so they welcomed me. You know, they understood that I was that had records, and I knew what I was talking about, and so they invited me at the show and be part of their team and everything. And so by the radio show, I was aware of the different music shop, you know, record shops in Paris, independent ones, and then the shows that were happening in small venues in Paris. And so by going to this radio show, I was aware of everything. And so, of course, I told them, "Hey, you know, I do noise show myself, noise music myself." And so I did a first tape and then another one. And then there was this radio organized a festival, so I played this festival. And then from them on, I just, you know, kept going and kept going, you know. So it's really just a little encounters, you know, with special people that made it happen really for me. Yes.
Yeah, nice. And I assume that wasn't under the name Vomir. It was under.
Oh no, my first Vomir was much later. It was almost 10 years later, because at the time the first noise project was Rectal, and then it was Under Your Calm Hand. Mm-hmm. And then I made a collaboration a group with a French guy called Fred Nipi. We had a project called Freya, and then another band with Frank Dekengo from the radio show Songs of Praise and the very famous Bimbo Tower shop in Paris. And so this band was called Ma Ayoni Mudra. And then from them on, I had a lot of different projects and different names and you know, aliases, you know. And then early 2000, I was getting fed up with my guitar noise and my guitar work, and so I started to switch sounds, looking for more static sound. But the guitar was not um, uh, was not the good instrument, the good mean, to get the sound I had in my head. So I just let the guitar off and switched to very small noise generators and small, very basic small synthesizers for noise. And then the static sound started to grow, and then the Vomir name came on, and then everything started with the Arc Noise Wall. Yes.
Okay. And did you also before started to switch to more static sounds with your guitar, or how was your guitar playing? How did it change over the years, or your noise guitar over the years? How did it change until you started Vomir?
Yeah. At first, my noise guitars was very much oriented in psychedelic sound, I think. It was a kind of noise, Pink Floyd, very badly played, of course, because I don't know how to play a guitar. So it was just a rambling sounds of psychedelic loops and flanging sounds and everything, but very noisy, of course. And at the time, I was just fed up with this sound. I was not very confident with it. I was not pleased by those sounds, and it was absolutely not the sound I wanted to do anymore. And so I wanted to go along with a very static noise sound. So I tried at first to do it on the guitar, just strumming and riffing the chords very fastly. It was working a bit, but it was not exactly what I needed, and my posture, my attitude with the instrument, I felt that something was not exactly right. So this is when I had to switch and try a different way of getting a new sound. Okay, and so at first it was I tried with a computer, very simple programs, but I don't really. I'm not very at ease with noise on a computer. This is not something that I like. So I think I ordered my first. At the time there was an American brand called Circuit Electronics that was making little noise synthesizer box or that kind of stuff, and finding noise generators, and so just switching very, very, very simple setups, I was getting somewhere I wanted to. The Vomir sound started to be created, but at the time it was just one line, just a very simple and effective static sound. And then I made my line more complete. Just not one sound, but different sound mixing together. And then the Arc Noise Wall that I was hoping in my head just happened. Yes. Okay. It was, different. It was in different steps. It didn't happen in just one click. I was getting my guitar, and in one click I was getting noise guitar, and it was easy, and it was radical, and it was just one step. Trying to get the Arc Noise Wall sound was a bit more of work and exactly trying different setups to achieve something really special.
Okay. And what kind of, if you would have to put it in words, I know it's hard to do, but what kind of noise wall sound did you have in mind back then in the beginning?
I was looking for something harsh. I was something like a rumble. I was looking for something that would a bit of a crushing sound, but a crush that would last. not something dynamic, because I was listening, of course, to a lot of harsh noise from different countries. And I didn't want anymore to have this kind of cut up harsh noise or dynamic harsh noise, with switching and highs and lows. Harsh noise was very effective at the time. I remember the late 90s and early 2000s. It was a very prolific time in noise music, because Sonic Youth was telling everyone that noise was absolutely fantastic, and Japanese noise was everywhere. Well, everywhere. Let's understand each other. It was everywhere in the noise scene, or maybe a bit of an alternative musical scene. But it was very dynamic, and it was just not for me. I was listening to a lot of harsh noise because this is my kind of music. I feel good when I'm listening to it. But I had the feeling that I needed to hear something else. And in my head, it was a crushing and rumbling, but lasting sound, something very static, just like a drone, like a Lamont Young or Phil Niblock or whatever, but with a kind of harshness, trying to getting back the harsh sounds that you would be listening with in Age of Kaidan or Merzbow again or whatever, or Montbrouille, of course, or those kind of really amazing setups and sounds. But I wanted those sounds to last, not to completely be cut up just about a few seconds. So that was my point, trying to have this harshness and getting along with it. Of course, it has been made by Lou Reed, in Metal Machine music. Sometimes it has been made by, of course, the Haters, GX Jupiter Larsen in America. It was amazing, the sound he made, just destroying a mic or that kind of sound, which were already pretty much static, or the New Blockaders in England. So it was, of course, a cumulative experience of sounds and trying to get my own aspect.
Okay, yeah, it's very interesting. And I mean, if I think about noise, or especially noise walls, then sometimes this polarity towards silence comes up to me. Like you have in silence, you always have like this non-directional feeling, and you also have this kind of nothingness, but at the same time the silence surrounds you and is like completeness. Have you in any way thought about this polarity between silence and noise, and did it affect you in any way also?
To be completely honest, those kind of notions of radicality and polarity with silence and noise, it came a little bit later. It came when the sound I wanted, the Vomir sound, the harsh noise wall sound I created, was in place. Before that, I was aware of the avant-garde from the composers, from John Cage and Silence, and all the silence in the European improvisation scene from AMM or Derek Bailey, and some the radicality of those improvisers. But it was not really relevant to me. I was just thinking about noise and nothing really much about anything else. But the thing is that when I really achieved my sound, I understood the polarity that you are talking about, and everything clicked in my head, and another click, and I was just bang, and oh, okay, so now that I have the noise that I want, when it stops, it's almost as powerful that when the noise is on. But I discovered it doing it. I didn't had any thoughts about it before. You know, so my practice and doing it, then I understood many things about the avant-garde and the musical scene. And of course, I was very much aware afterwards about Cage, and I started to read essays about experimental music, getting very much interested in those kind of sounds and composing but at first I was just, you know, the basic noise head, just like I just want noise and nothing else matters, you know. Then it was very much different, and yes, of course, silence is so much powerful also, because when you're um, silence is yes, the polarity is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, exactly the feeling you described. I also have when yeah, noise walls are turned off, and then like you just feel the power you had before, but in a almost negative way. I mean, negative way. Like it's like this polarity. Just yeah, I find it also very, very
Exactly, but
interesting.
you know, I was very lucky because the truth is that the Archnose Wall, um, I was doing my little CDRs in Paris of static sound, and one day I was back in Bimbo Tower Shop, and the owner Frank just handed me a few couple of CDs from the American label Tronics, and it was a CD by the Rita. And of course, and there was another project called Werewolf Jerusalem, which was a project for Richard Ramirez, which was already a major figure in the art noise scene. And those two projects um, uh, was exactly my kind of sound. It was static sound, exactly the same way that I was doing it. Not exactly the same way, but you know, it was a feeling that it was exactly the same attitude, you know. Oh, you're working exactly in the direction that I want to work too, you know. And so the first thing I did, of course, was sending some CDs to Sam McKinley from the Rita, you know, and his label Militant Walls, because he's the one, you know, who figured this acronym HNW. He was the one creating the name of those walls. And so he got my CDs, and 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 he said, "But yes, of course, Romain, it's amazing. You're doing exactly what we are doing in America or in Canada, because Sam McKinley is from Canada, and Richard Ramirez is American." And so yes, we were three exactly at the same time, Sam, Richard, and myself, doing this noise static sound, you know. And so Archnose Wall was created because we were the three doing those sounds, and we had the same background. We understood exactly that those static sounds were relevant to silence, of course, and that within those sounds, your mind was going to create absolutely new stuff. Okay, because the boring the boring ability of the static sound makes your mind creative, because the mind absolutely hates continuity, hates something that is completely static. The mind needs, you know, to be excited. And so within those sounds, which are completely continuous and static and unmoving, your mind will create new sound within your head. And that is absolutely relevant also. So there is polarity with the noise, which exists, the silence, which is around you, but also the silence that you create in your head, because the noise at a certain time will disappear. You know, if you're listening to the noise, you know, it's so much always the same that for a lot of people, especially in live shows, the noise will disappear actually, and you will just go away in your thoughts or any new sounds that you will create in your head. And those little glimpses that will appear within the static sound are very, very, very important for me, actually.
That's I mean, that's absolutely the
Because
point with
exactly, because it's not it's noise for noise, but the noise will get you somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's a kind of freedom, it's a kind of of nothingness. Of course it's completely theoretical, because we do not get into nothingness, or we are staying there as human beings. But those sounds will make you disappear a little bit, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the point that I mean, many don't see, or I don't know. It's that it's like a means of I don't know, getting somewhere in the end, or having like an idea of polarity, or an idea of something in your head also. And
yeah, but when you're dancing to techno music or electronic music, for a lot of young people, or even whatever age is not important. But if you're listening to electronic music or pop music, a lot of people would just will just disappear in their music. So I don't think it's completely the Harsh Noise Wall is not the only music that will get you in different places. Music is this kind of force that will make you happy, or dancing, or mixing with people, or whatever. Well, we all know what music does. But the truth is that for some people, the noise will be very helpful, because it's something that will. I think it is very primitive. We know that the alpha waves from white noise, the sound of the sea, the sound of waves crashing, on the shore, or the falling rain, or storms, or whatever, all those white noise, it calms, it soothes. There is a lot of machine and YouTube videos of white noise, to calm babies, and put babies to sleep. And even, in those kind of nature shop or whatever, there is those kind of white noise generators, or waterfalls sounds, machines or whatever. And the Harsh Noise Wall music videos on YouTube, it's like 200 views, but if you're listening to white noise for babies, it will be billions and billions of views. So the noise is relevant to people. It soothes, it's happening. But of course, Harsh Noise Wall is a bit different. Harsh Noise Wall is a bit different because the wall has a kind of concrete feeling, has a kind of construction. It's a bit more difficult to get into, because you need a bit of culture. It's an experience. It's not just like. No, Harsh Noise Wall will confront yourself within yourself. It's like, go on. If you want to get somewhere else, if you want to know yourself a bit better, if you want to have a real experience in sounds, so Harsh Noise Wall is maybe for you. It's I don't know. It's very hard to describe exactly the feeling of Harsh Noise Wall, and why Harsh Noise Wall is so much different from a basic white noise that you can get into tuning your radio, between stations. But actually, it works, and it is very powerful. Yes, very powerful.
Yeah, maybe even that there's still a human element to Harsh Noise Wall, because I mean, in the end, the human mind, or the one who performs it, he still has the control, at least in some way. I mean, when it comes to other noise, then it's really complete randomness, or like yeah, whatever it is. But I mean, with harsh noise wall, at least at some point there was a human thought there, however small
It's
or big.
absolutely amazing what you say. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is maybe it. Actually, it's like it is because actually there is a kind of human ability behind or something like that, and and just maybe because it is. I will say a very bad word, but I will say it anyway. Just because maybe it is art, and so of course it's somehow there is an attitude or my feelings or my own will that will get into the noise that I do, and the noise I do is different from the Rita or different from Werewolf Jerusalem or different from any other Harsh Noise Wall artist, because now Harsh Noise Wall is a genre and it's completely official, and so you can find the genre on Discogs, so it's really a scene. It's really a niche within the experimental music, and so there is a lot of differences between different projects, and this is of course so interesting about noise. You'd think it is always the same, but actually it's always different. It's but it's like pop music. The two people will make a good tune. What is the difference between Bob Dylan and Neil Young? When they were doing folk music, it's just a guitar and a voice, but the voice is different, the guitar playing is different, and they're both making folk music with very simple elements, but at the same time it's different, and it's exactly the same in Harsh Noise Wall. Two people can make just basic static sound, but at the same time it's absolutely completely different in textures or 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 quality of sound or whatever. And so this is why our Harsh Noise Wall is so different and powerful also. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then, I mean, in the mid 2000s, you started really performing as Vomir, and have you like in remembrance of like the first gigs with Vomir? What was the audience, or what kind of venue was it where you were performing?
Well, the first Vomir performance was in Paris. And at the time, it was very different because I didn't really achieve the live posture that I do now. The first Vomir gig was I was in a big bag of plastic bag, like from a building site, when you put gravels in it. And so I was in the bag, and a friend of mine just pulled me on the stage on the bag, and so nobody saw me. I was just hiding in this bag and just pushing a button and just letting the noise flows. So that was one of the first Vomir performance. But of course, being dragged in a bag was absolutely not something that I could reproduce. I was not. It was not very effective. Okay. So the first tour I did with Vomir, I think, was in Belgium and the Netherlands, one of the first tour. And then at the time, I was already with a bag on my head, but I was lying on the floor, okay, to be different from the other acts. But I can tell you that lying on the floor in squats and dirty venues, it's no good at all, especially if you are touring, because after 2 nights you will be your clothes will be absolutely fucking awful. So, and at the time I was with my gear. I was, carrying my 2 suitcases of gear, just plugging everything, and then just lying on the floor with the gear beside me. But I was not, of course, touching the gear. So it was a bit silly, you know. I was carrying all these musical instruments and synthesizers and cables and mixing and everything, and just to plug it and not touching it. And so it was a bad idea, you know. It was too much stuff to carry, and then lying on the floor was maybe radical, but it was not convenient. So doing that tour taught me a lot of things. The first thing, I was going to stand up, but the bag idea was a very good and effective idea because it worked on myself and it was cheap and it was easy. So, okay, so now I can give a bag to everyone. And then if I stand up and not touching my gear, why do I have to carry some material? Why do I have to carry some gear and machines and everything? So 2 points: standing up, plastic bag, not moving, of course. That was already the case when I was just lying on the floor, absolutely not moving, to be completely different from everyone else, you know. Harsh noise world was something radical. If you are in a noise show, it is because you want to hear noise and it will be nothing else. Okay, so this is noise, take it or leave it, okay? So not moving, not touching the gear, standing up, plastic bag. And so just carrying a small portative a digital record player and just pushing a button play. It will be more simple, more effective, and very more easy to get on the trip. You know, I have just a suitcase, a t-shirt, and that's it. So it was more practical. And so when I decide all of this, everything just was getting in place, you know. And so the attitude, absolutely still, absolutely static, was absolutely effective with the sound. And also the bag on my head and giving the people the bags, it worked, you know, because at the same time I was able to go and to see everyone in the audience. It was not, you know, this guy who is he who is on stage and you don't know him or whatever bullshit. You know, I didn't want to be a kind of elitist or whatever. You know, no. Before the gig, I'm going in the audience, and you can know me. You can, you know, I'm not hiding. It's me. I'm just giving you a bag. Hello, how are you? My name is Romain. He takes his bag. So it's cool, you know. It's a bound between the audience and me, and then we can go together in the noise, and it's like this now for, it's been 15 years or something like that, and it's still very effective like that. And of course, it's not maybe very ecological because plastic bags are not very how do you say you know,
eco-friendly.
Eco-friendly, exactly. But I don't, you know, you can recycle your bag and take it with you and put your groceries in it or whatever, or your trash. So I know I'm not very much eco-friendly, but
yeah,
that's it. That's
nobody's
the way it is
perfect.
for now.
Nobody's
exactly.
perfect.
Exactly.
And then okay, yeah, so you basically, I think, traveled a huge part of the world with Vomir. And do you have like any special gig or special concert in your mind that really stood out from any
Yeah,
concert?
I was very, very, very lucky to be invited to be special shows all around the world, and every show is important, I guess, you know. But of course, when I make a trip in Sao Paulo in Brazil, it's absolutely amazing, you know. Just taking the plane for one night and doing the gig and then going back. It's completely an experience. But also going and playing some gigs in Tokyo, in Japan, was absolutely amazing. Or making this last tour 2 years ago in America with Sam Zarita and Richard Ramirez and Sean Matsus and Black Laser Jesus, and of course Johan from Ominous Recordings. It's terrific. It's always good experience, playing Bergen in Berlin, or um, you know, it, I am lucky to still be able to do shows and be invited. So yeah, every show is important, really.
Okay, yeah. And over the years, I mean, did you always have side projects also, or many projects at the same time, or was there a time where you just had focused on Vomir?
Well, at the time, I was very focused on Vomir. To tell you the truth, it was it is still my main project, But at the time, I was completely dedicated to Vomir. But then there is always this need in me producing other kind of music, like improvised or out of place music, because I don't know how to play any instruments, but still I just want to improvise and doing bad music, because the thing is that the punks or the improvisers, everyone from the 70s, they said, oh, you don't have to know to play music to make a band, and you take a guitar and you play and that's it. But that's untrue, Everybody knows how to play the guitar, punks, they said, oh, you don't have to play, you don't have to know to play. Yeah, they absolutely know how to play. Punk's music from England, this is just pop music, So it was rubbish. And Derek Bailey or whatever, they always said, oh, you can pick your instrument, but they were all absolutely masters at their instruments, And so there was a kind of dichotomy, of oh, you can do whatever you can, but at the same time, they were all absolutely masters in music, before getting into those deviant ways. And for my part, I thought that was completely bullshit, Yes, you can make music not knowing music, it has to be, So uh, uh, I never wanted to learn any instruments, but at the same time, I want to play. I want to play piano. I want to play guitar. I want to play bizarre music. Some music I want to do. There is no um, uh, uh, resistance. In doing so. So I do many collaboration and musical projects, and it's a big part of my life to be at ease with myself. It's a kind of balance, because I have a salary life myself. I am not ashamed of it. I am a family guy of my an apartment and children and everything. But it was not doing Arsenal's walls that I was going to be able to get some money. So I was of course obliged to have a salaryman. A shitty job, and doing my work to pay the bills. But at the same time, I really need to make those difficult music, or whatever music you can call. So I have this liberty, I have my salary, I have my job, so I can make the music I want. There is nobody to tell me what to do, or to expect me to do something special, So I'm absolutely free to do whatever I want, and I create a kind of special music, I guess. But this is what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And what is coming up? Any new projects? I mean, I saw that you are doing this shit folk, your shit folk music, and
shit folk is very important for me. It's it's a balance between something of course with a lot of second degree, but I'm doing it very seriously, just like Vomir. There is a lot of second degree, of course, in Vomir. This is very serious, but some people are just they are laughing at me. And I understand. Yeah, you can laugh, absolutely. Idiotic behavior. Yeah, I'm an idiot, to do this. But it's very important, I think, in our world to be an idiot, or getting a bit of this idiot attitude within us. You know, there is this absolutely amazing thing by Lars von Trier called The Idiots. I don't know if you remember this movie, and it's a movie I absolutely adore. So yes, you can be a bit of an idiot, but if you do it seriously, then it produces some kind of effect on you and maybe on other people. So shitfolk, yeah, shitfolk. I really love doing shitfolk music, playing my guitar and expressing feelings with a language that doesn't really exist. It's kind of a kind of blues music, but of course badly played. And it can be a kind of acoustic grindcore also. And I do a lot of collaboration with the piano. I had another project called Trou Aura, which is a very romantic synthesizers-based music and a kind of feeling of like playing. I don't know if you remember the book Notre Dame de Paris from Victor Hugo, and it's kind of romantic. I'm in love with the horrors from the 30s and the 60s and monsters and romantic, you know, stories between monsters and maidens. So vampires and monsters and kidnapped girls and everything in crypts, in gothic castles. This is my stuff, you know. So True Aura project is completely improvised, of course, but songs within echoes and organs, and so I've made a few recordings and few albums with this project also, and of course making improvised music with a saxophone or trumpet or guitar or electronic machines or whatever, create something that is, but always, you know, always improvised. And if I just make a mix of some tracks, the mix will be completely indeterminate. You know, it's just like throwing tracks together, and just make it works or not. It's absolutely unlearn everything and be as raw and true as possible. You know, no filters.
Nice. Yeah. I think that's what we need definitely. And
I don't know, you know, but it's
no need. But I mean, I think that's like the approach that more people should take. I think in the end, like to really do their stuff and like express themselves.
Well, we are lucky because yeah, or there is the life we are living now. There has never been. It's amazing the quantity of music it exists nowadays with Bandcamp or SoundCloud or whatever, you know. So yeah, it's kind of a kind of a process that gives a liberty to a lot of people just put their music, you know, online or to make it public and do whatever they want. And so there's it's this kind of quality nowadays with the internet to be able to do whatever you want, you know.
Yeah. And yeah, maybe as a final, do you have any upcoming shows this year or next year that are?
Yes, actually, thank you so much. I'm planning a Vomir show in France next week in Reims. I have made a residency, and to create for once a true harsh noise wall generator using a computer, and we made a special program for harsh noise wall on the Max software, and so I will be playing a show following this residence in Reims, and then it will be shows in Switzerland, and it will be in next January. And between those shows, maybe there are plans to perform in Rennes or a small concert. And I am making also a new concert series in Paris. Every 2 weeks, I am doing an improvised concert on invitation, and anyone can can come and play, and so we'll make improvised collaboration just on the fly, just to have a place to play more in Paris, because there is some shows in Paris, of course, but not many, and there is no many places to do improvised music on the fly. So I'm trying to develop this and making a new series of concerts. We'll see if it works.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I hope I'll be able to eventually join you at a concert and to come.
That would be absolutely amazing, Jonas.
And thank you very much for this interview, and I hope you're having a nice weekend. And
you too, Jonas. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Perfect.
It's been great talking to you.
Thanks.
Very interesting, of course, to talk, and well, you understood so well the music that I made, so it was easy. And so thank you so much for your time and your support.
Thank you very much for your time. And okay, so
have a good weekend, Jonas.
Wait a second, I need to stop the